Hi everyone, thank you for checking in today and watching this video. This is a video that I've had many requests for over the several years I've been doing this. And I've made other videos about this, but I'm going to add some more stuff to this one. The question is will someone ask me to make a video about comorbidity with narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder? And I want to shed some light on what I know. I want to start by first saying I'm not a doctor. I'm just a life coach, and I've been studying this stuff for a number of years. And so I'm just going to tell you my take, my understanding of this. And a lot of this has come from speaking with other doctors and PhDs in this profession, therapists and counselors. And I've learned a lot from them and my own research. So that's all I'm doing, is telling you my opinion because you asked. Thank you. So first, there's 10 different personality disorders. Borderline and narcissistic being two different ones. And they're two different personality disorders, and they can look the same. And a lot of people think that someone they know is both borderline and narcissistic. And I'm not going to tell you that they can't be. They could. Some doctors will diagnose their patients with two different disorders, personality disorders. But what I want you guys to try to understand is that there is so much overlap in traits. Okay, there's lots of overlap. It's kind of like when you cross the line into personality disorders, you're going to share traits of maybe all 10 someone can. Okay, and so there's a certain criteria of traits for each disorder that you have to meet to have the diagnosis. Okay, so there's a certain criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, and there's a certain criteria for borderline personality disorder. They're different traits. And someone can meet the criteria for both. But what most doctors have told me they do is diagnose the one that's more prominent. Okay? Sometimes these diagnoses can take months with a doctor-client relationship before they are confident in their diagnosis as well. Some patients can see one doctor and be diagnosed with borderline, and they can see another doctor and be diagnosed narcissistic, and they go throughout life saying, I'm both borderline and narcissistic personality disorder. That happens. It happens with other disorders. Personality disorders, for one, and I'm going to go through some common things and then that are diagnostic terms, and then I'll get into my own. Personality disorders are pervasive. It's in all parts of your life. It is your personality, and our personalities form late in childhood, early in adulthood, teens to 20s. And when we form our personality, it really doesn't change. We don't totally change who we are. We can change many things about ourselves, the way we think and feel and behave, but people with personality disorders tend to not change it. They need extensive therapy to do so. That's a whole nother video on my opinion, if people can change, and I say people can change, but we typically don't change totally who we are, okay? We can lose that sense of who we are. It's personality disorders, it's a way of thinking, feeling, and behaving that deviates from our culture or cultural expectations. So first one I want to get into, the most prolific, I think, is a pattern of unstable relationships. That really is. Patients go to see doctors, believe it or not, that are narcissists and borderlines. They will go see doctors sometimes. The reason is because the most important thing in our lives are relationships with people and having our emotional needs met. Most important. The biggest problem with having personality disorders is forming and keeping and growing relationships with people. So it can be extremely depressive, as some of you know what it's like to not have relationships with people or people in our life that we're connecting with. So they go seek help from doctors, and doctors formed these titles to help their patients understand their problems to hopefully try to fix. Okay? So the first one being a pattern of unstable interpersonal relationships. That's very common. I mean, I think that's both narcissists and borderlines, all of them. And that doesn't mean that people stay together a long time. I get that asked too. You know, do you think that a narcissist can stay in a long-term relationship? A borderline can stay in a long-term relationship? Yes, they can. What does that relationship consist of? Total dependency, needs not being met, exploitation, abuse, neglect. I've heard it going on for 30, 40 years. Really doesn't say much, right? I don't think that really does until you get into the meat of the relationship. Dramatic relationships, traumatic relationships, this instability is characterized by these things. Dramatic, traumatic relationships, on and off again a lot, cold and hot, extreme dependency, and exploitation. That's when we cross that line into personality disorders. Because a lot of you guys are watching, you're like, oh shoot, I've had traumatic relationships, dependency, but maybe you weren't exploitative, hopefully. Okay? Exploitation. That's taking things from people or using things about people, using people for what you want and not connecting with them. And that's very important to remember and realize that narcissists specifically do not value emotional connection. Borderlines may have never emotionally connected with anyone either in their life. Okay? Relationships that are abusive and neglectful. Okay? Emotional needs aren't being met. Another one is that it's very common for both narcissists and borderlines to have other disorders, not personality disorders, but things like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, behavioral or mood disorders, anxiety disorders, depression disorders, and very common addiction disorders. They are very, very dependent, and along with dependent relationships typically follows sex addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, these types of things, okay? Other disorders like eating disorders, very, very common that they share. They may share, narcissists and borderlines. They will be extremely impulsive. Impulsivity. They do not regulate their emotions or do not process them, both. Okay, they deny or reject who they are, and a major part of who we are our emotions, what our body's doing. And they will not process or they reject their emotions. So they have a very unstable sense of who they are, and this becomes impulsive. This makes them impulsive. So they'll do things that might be self-sabotaging. All of a sudden, out of the blue, they do something crazy, and they don't care if they get in trouble by the police, or they may get in a car and drive drunk and do something, accidents. They may just take drugs or alcohol. That's the addictions part of it, okay? That is impulsivity, compulsivity. Anger, though. Anger. Impulsive people tend to have anger problems. Narcissists and borderlines really share that. They'll have lots of anger, rage, temper tantrums, impulsivity, doing things that they regret and are ashamed of and ignore it and deny it. They'll both be somewhat delusional thinking, meaning all of our perspective on stuff is a little different, a little skewed, right? There's what you said happened, what I said happened, and there's what really happened, right? We're all a little off. But they'll be very off. They'll tell you things they'll tell you a story and they'll add people that aren't in it and tell you did things and said things you never did at all. Maybe they did it, but they're telling you did it. Very delusional. This is the beginning of psychosis. Okay? They share this. They can share this very much because the borderline has such lack of awareness of what's going on with their body, and they don't know what they want. They don't know what they need. They don't trust people. They're scared. Okay? And narcissists deny themselves and reject themselves and hate themselves. So they don't accept their own emotions and process these things. They're very dependent on you to help them regulate, or to you to stroke their ego and make them feel better. Judgmental. People are good or bad. Maybe they're all bad. Maybe you are good and then you're bad. Maybe someone's bad and then they're good. Black and white thinking, okay? Also known as splitting. Very, very common with narcissists and borderlines that they don't see gray areas, that they don't accept people for being a little bad and a little good and making mistakes. Very, very judgmental. Entitlement. Boy, borderlines and narcissists can really share that. I'm not saying all, but that is a very, very, very shared trait for both. Now I'll get the narcissist that rejects who they are, and they have this self-appointed status, my pride, I deserve the best, I have the best, I always have the best, right? Because I'm entitled, because it's me. Whereas the borderline is so dependent, you have to do this for me. You can't just stop doing this for me now. I want you to talk to me now. Where are you? Message me now. I don't care what you're doing, right? Real entitlement issues and more dependency. That's the borderline who's so dependent. Constant need, this is the borderline and narcissist, constant need for attention, admiration, or both, okay? Constant need for attention or admiration. I need to tell my narcissist girlfriend she's so pretty all the time, and she needs to go online and post her photo, a new one every day, and have all these people she hardly knows tell her how beautiful she is, and then just got to start over again the next day, right? Or the borderline that just needs you to fix their problems all the time, and they tell you every little thing that's wrong with them, no boundaries at all. I this, and you need to help me with this, and what do I do now? And you know, they'll text 5 people for attention, and whoever replies, great, give me all your attention, screw everybody else. Real exploitation. Unstable self. I mentioned this earlier. They both have an extreme unstable sense of who the hell they are. Maybe even identity crisis. You've got, and it's for different reasons, but it can look very similar. Narcissist rejects who they are growing up as a child, and their parents somehow help them form this false or fake self. It's what they want or what they expect them to be. Or you're just so bad, they reject who I am. I'm going to make up somebody else new. This is who I want you to see. Whereas the borderline rejects how they feel and their emotions, and they won't fess up to mistakes they've made and won't apologize, right? Borderlines and narcissists both can have major problems apologizing, major problems asking for what they want, telling you how they feel, right? They won't be vulnerable. Both of them made a pact. Nobody will ever hurt me again. And if you do, you're a horrible, bad person, right? Massive smear campaigns, talking bad about people all the time. Depression, which means that they don't get along well with others. Lots of confrontations. The world's a bad place. People are bad and ugly and stupid. Judging themselves and not accepting who they are, so they judge others and don't accept others for who they are. No boundaries, right? Just cross those boundaries, don't care where yours are. Maybe they have no boundaries. They just dive in anything, tell you anything about themselves, talk about their past all the time, come over uninvited, want you to all the time, you know, want to be around you all the time, maybe just in the beginning, full enmeshment. I feel this way, you should have known, you should make me feel better, you shouldn't make me have to even ask for what I want and need. I need you to be very in tune with everything about me. You know, looking in each other's phones, they'll even say, hey, look, honey, you can have the code to get into my phone, you know, all this stuff. Okay? And both of them have experienced massive childhood neglect and trauma and probably abuse. Okay, massive childhood neglect. But you'll have the narcissist very commonly will say, the rejected, I may have had a good childhood. That's the narcissist. Total rejects all the bad experiences, all the bad feelings, how lonely and sad they may have been. Reject all that loss, my lost childhood. Rejected, oh, it was a good childhood, because they care about image, status. I can't have a bad childhood. Whereas the borderline may have been traumatized enough that they dissociated and can't remember their childhood. They may tell you it was bad, but they may not even realize how bad at all. So, because of this, and this childhood neglect means they're bad at communicating, aren't they? I know some people have been neglected so bad as in their childhood, they're completely socially inept. And that is extremely common for narcissists and borderlines, to be totally socially inept. Just a bad day all day, not getting along with anybody. Depression. They have massive depression. And they have low moral values. A big part of who we are the things that we value the most. Okay? They have things they value, and we have things we value. And we'll get along in life a lot better when we have moral value and a moral compass that we live by, and we have some integrity. So it's very common for borderlines and narcissists to be dishonest. Now also realize, like I said, they lack awareness of who they are and their behaviors and their feelings, stuff like this. Very, very lack awareness. So they will tell you, I really value loyalty and honesty. And then you'll catch them in lies and talking crap about you and cheating on you. Don't know who I am, right? Low moral value or no moral value. They will be dishonest, no integrity, judgmental towards other people, not accepting. They will be disrespectful to others. They will be disloyal to others. They'll be not just they'll be self-deprecating to themselves. They may hurt themselves and sabotage parts of their life, both. Pipe dreams. Very, very common, pipe dreams. This could be lots of I statements. I am this, I am that, always telling you who they are because they don't know. And even those things just constantly change, right? But the pipe dreams, you'll have the borderline, I want to do this. I want to go to school and have a degree in makeup. And I want to jump out of an airplane. And a lot of us might do this sometimes, but not constantly. Constantly, I this, I that, I this, I that. And the narcissist, oh, if I started a business, it would be so successful. If I was, maybe I'll be famous someday. Borderlines might do this too. I want to be this and I want to be that. And I want to be this and I want to be that. And neither of them do one single damn thing to get there. Right? Totally delusional, totally entitled, don't know who they are. I hope I covered a lot here, enough to help you guys understand what that means. That narcissistic borderline comorbidity exists, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have both personality disorders. Remember, overlap, overlap, overlap. Very common for someone with narcissistic personality disorder to also have paranoid personality disorder traits. Maybe also be somewhat obsessive compulsive. Share some of those. May also be somewhat histrionic. Share some of those. Once you're a narcissist, you're already high on psychopathy spectrum. One criteria alone for antisocial personality disorder is you meet the criteria for narcissistic personality disorder. That's how much overlap there is. There's been talk of eliminating narcissistic personality disorder just because of that, because it already fits into antisocial, which is your sociopath and psychopath. Once you have a personality disorder, you're even higher on the psychopathy spectrum. I'm not saying you are one, but all these are spectrums. All these are spectrums. You take one personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, that in itself is a spectrum, and you can have high and low functioning. Okay? And this is about personality, so they may vary and be a little different. I hope I've offered clarity and not more confusion. Please tell me. Please ask questions. Let me know. I'll answer everyone's questions. Thank you for the recommendation. Thank you for asking me to make this video. Please tell me if it made sense to you, if you understand, and keep asking questions, like I said again. Anybody interested in coaching, you can find me at daviddemars.com. Thank you guys. Love yourself first, and I'll see you soon. Bye.